Hello and welcome to the Food Connections podcast, the podcast that helps you learn more about the food you eat and connect with those who make it. I'm Dr. Laura Winus, a registered nutritionist specialising in nutrition research and communication. I'm also delighted to be one of Scotland's 25 regional food tourism ambassadors. In this Food Connections episode, I'm joined by Liz and Ewan from Udny Provender, a company based in Aberdeenshire in North East Scotland. Liz and Ewan have a very productive smallholding, as well as a number of bee hives from which they collect and sell some very tasty honey. I actually recorded this episode last summer when I was practicing my podcasting skills, so I'm glad I finally got round to launch the first series of the Food Connections podcast and can actually share the chat I had with Liz and Ewan. They gave some really interesting insights on beekeeping, including a surprising find inside a hive, and I also found out what the best tasting honey is in Scotland, and it was one I hadn't heard of before. So I really hope you enjoy listening. Today I'm joined by Liz and Ewan. Welcome, how are you?
We're fine, thanks so much for having us on.
No problem. First of all, could you just tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Sure, so I'm Liz Campbell and I am the owner of Udny Provender. I started it about in 2016, so it's been running for a few years now. I have a background in conservation biology, but before that I had a background in farming, and all in all it's sort of come together to me running this small food business with Ewan.
Yeah, so luckily I don't have much to do with the day-to-day business running side of it. I do all the beekeeping for Udny Provender. Professionally, I'm a research scientist and I worked for many years on honeybee health, and through that I decided to try beekeeping myself so that I wasn't telling beekeepers what to do without actually knowing the applied technicalities of beekeeping. So, and then that grew and became a bigger hobby, and then we decided we would make honey and sell it commercially. So we don't produce that much honey, but it's still a significant amount for sale. So I do all the beekeeping for the business, really.
So a good combination of background and skills then.
Yeah, we work it out together. We muddle through together. We've got different skill sets for it. Yeah.
And actually visited you at your home, and you do have a variety of plants and animals, and it seems like a very thriving environment that you've got.
Yeah, we've got a little small holding. So as I said, my parents were farmers. I grew up on a farm. Although I absolutely loved my childhood, I didn't want to take on the full-scale farm when my dad was looking to retire. It was just too much to fit in with everything else that I wanted to do in my life. And I went on to university and had a degree in biology and conservation biology and things like that. So, but I did love that idea of knowing where my food came from, understanding the seasons, being connected to the food and trying to produce as much as you can yourself. So we have a small holding where we've got pigs and we've got chickens and we've got ducks and we've got geese, and we grow our own vegetables, and obviously we've got the bees, and so we have a wildflower meadow that the bees can forage on. And it is, for me, it's just a lovely lifestyle, and running the business through it gives us an opportunity to live that lifestyle.
Yeah,
and it sounds very idyllic. The reality, especially at this time of year in sort of June, July, August, when everything's go, is pretty full on, and we both work other jobs as well, so it's kind of fitting everything around. And also with the kids, it's quite full on, although they're getting old enough now that they kind of help out a wee bit. I say help, they kind of help.
Kind of roped into it.
Yeah.
It's good experience for them.
Absolutely.
So I suppose talking about bees then, how important are bees to the environment? Are they absolutely essential for life in general?
So it's quite funny actually, my whole outlook on honeybees has changed somewhat from what it used to be. So, I mean, I still see honeybees as hugely important, but I think I've grown to know that all pollinators are important. The sort of general invertebrate life and pollination, and it's not just honeybees, although they are a key part of that because we can manage it. It's solitary bees, bumblebees, flies, wasps, hoverflies, everything is really essential. And I think often it's overstated about honeybees, but one of the things about honeybees is because we can manage them, we can increase numbers of honeybees in areas where we need pollination desperately. And so it's something that we can control. Ideally, we'd love to increase habitats for all pollinators, but that's a much bigger question. It's a bit much harder to change that aspect of pollination and manage pollination. So honeybees are vital, and they do provide, especially in Europe and sort of highly agricultural areas, and where fruit farming or oilseed rape is such a big thing, then honeybees are a really key component of that in terms of sustainable food production. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so how many honeybees or hives do you have at the moment, or is it growing?
It's quite in flux, actually. So depending on the year, at this time of year as well, we split a lot of the hives. So because the hives in general, they want to grow throughout the season, and they don't just grow in terms of the number of bees within a hive, but each hive will want to split and reproduce, and that's where you get a swarm. So a swarm is the hive reproducing itself and sort of doubling in size. You end up with 2 hives or 3 hives or 4 hives from one. And this time of the year, it's quite difficult to keep track because we've got a lot of hives up on the heather moors that have just moved up there to get the heather honey, which is a real premium sort of product. And then I've kept a lot of hives down in the lowland to try and get some late season blossom honey, so things like lime honey. So we've got I think I've got about 35 hives at the moment. And we started the season, because the winter was quite long this year. It really takes its toll, so you lose a few colonies. You always lose a few just due to the cold. So we've grown a lot actually this year, from about 20. I've capped at about 35. I didn't want any more than that. It becomes unmanageable. So,
but each hive will have maybe 60 to 100,000 bees in it. So we've got a lot of individual bees.
Yeah. I always tell the farmers near us, because they think that, we're just kind of play farming and, it's just a hobby thing. But I always say to them, I've got about 2 million head of bee compared to their 1,000 cattle. So, I think I'm ahead on animal
individual members.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
So you said, you've got the hives kind of scattered around. Does that mean the hives up, you mentioned in the Highlands, with the bees feeding off the heather, that'll be producing a honey that's got a very distinct flavour compared to the lowlands ones? So what type of flavours are there with honey?
Absolutely. So we're quite lucky where we are that we've got access to a lot of different habitats that have different plants and different floral sources for the bees. And it really does make a huge difference to the taste and the sort of smells and things of the honey, and the consistency even. So mainly the early part of the year, in spring, there's not many wildflowers out, but the oilseed rape, farmers plant a lot of oilseed rape near us. And that gives a very mild, quite neutral honey. And it's a set honey. So British honeys tend to go hard quite quickly compared to a lot of European honeys. So a lot of the runny honey that you see in the supermarket won't be UK based. So to prevent the oilseed rape honey going rock hard and really hard, we kind of cream it. So we keep it moving and we break up those wee sugar crystals. So it's nice and smooth. And that's the kind of lovely creamy honey that you get, that you'll see. Spreadable. Yeah. And it's very neutral, and actually a lot of kids and things like that honey.
Yeah, it's mild, sweet, standard honey.
And then,
whereas the heather honey later in the year is a much darker in colour, much stronger flavour. I find that we sell a lot of it to gentlemen of a particular age. You find that often children don't like it because they don't associate it as honey. It's got such a strong flavour. And every flower will give nectar that tastes slightly different. So we'll make honey that's slightly different. And you tend to find that the darker the honey, the stronger the flavour.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we get one of our sort of rarest honeys in Scotland, I guess, that we don't tend to sell it. Actually, we keep it to ourselves because it's so good, is the lime, so Tilia lime, which is a sort of mainly European plant.
It's a sort of big tree that you see growing on big estates. They'll have avenues of lime trees and things.
Yeah, and it's a lovely, almost minty flavour. It's got a really sort of greenish tinge.
Almost green colour, yeah.
And it's beautiful. So we try and get that, but it's very fickle. In Scotland, like nice warm weather and sort of wet in the evenings, and that doesn't it's usually the other way around. Yeah.
So lots of variation then. I mean the rapeseed flower honey made from that, I've definitely tried, because I think you had some beehives on my dad's farm, which he's very pleased about, because of course it helps with the pollination. So I'm slightly biased, but it was fantastic honey. So One question I've always wanted to ask is, over the winter, you said it was quite a long winter this last winter, but what happens to bees over winter? What do they do? Do they kind of hibernate, or they don't make honey over winter, obviously?
No, so it's kind of a lot of people think that bees will just hibernate and literally kind of shut down, and they almost do. They go into what's called a torpor, where they're still active, but in a very slow manner. They just slow down the metabolism, slow down all the processes, and they will effectively, on a cold day or cold period over a couple of weeks, they would just cluster down into a really, really tight kind of rugby ball sized cluster, and the queen will be right at the center, and the other bees around will just kind of keep her warm and packed in, as insulated as they can be, and they will eat the honey and the sugars that are in the hive and use that to generate heat from their wing muscles, and that keeps the whole cluster warm. And there is, over time, there'll be a sort of bees dying, the edge of the cluster, but you kind of hope by the end of winter, when spring comes along, there's still that critical mass of bees to allow the queen to then start laying again and the hive population to start increasing. So,
but they don't hibernate. If you do get a warm, sunny day during the winter, they will leave the hive. They will go and forage on any winter flowers, ivy and things that are flowering throughout the winter. They will go and collect a bit of nectar just to replenish their stores a bit. And they also need to leave the hive throughout the winter to do cleaning jobs. They need to remove dead bees and be able to go out and just keep themselves clean. So they do need, if the winter's too long, if you have too long a period of very cold weather where they can't get out of the hive, then that's when the hives really struggle.
You tend to get more disease if the bees are confined to their hive for more than maybe a couple of weeks. Then disease will kind of build up, and it's not always a huge problem, but it can be. If the snowdrops are out and the aconites are out in the garden, and it's sunny, even though it might be quite cold, as long as the sun's on the hive, you see them flying around. It's really nice, and people are always quite surprised.
It is always the promise of spring. To see the bees out on the early winter, you know that spring is coming.
We've actually planted a lot of willows on our small holding, so we've got a couple of thousand willow trees, and they're just getting to the point now where they have a lot of catkins, and the bees will get very early pollen off that. And that was kind of part of the plan, to, provide some source when there's not much in nature. So if you plant some trees that give them early pollen, it means they can build up and start going. So it's really... Yeah.
So are you still getting honey from the beehive over winter then?
So we won't extract any of that honey that they collect over winter. So over winter, the hive is essentially just one box, and all the bees are living in that one box. And in the late spring and summer, when we're trying to collect honey, we'll put extra boxes on that they will fill just with honey that we will then use to extract. But when over winter it's just the one box, there'll be a mixture of the brood and the eggs and the honey around the edges as well. But that honey that they collect in there, that's just for them to eat. We don't take that honey out of that.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you as well about the schools visits that you do. So I believe you go around some schools and talk to kids and teachers and explain how honey is made and give them information about bees. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Sure, that's something that I do. I have always loved getting other people enthusiastic about science and the environment, and bees now obviously as well. And bees are so fascinating. They're something that is very easy to talk to school children about and to gain their enthusiasm with. And we have a special hive that we can actually take around that's got a glass panel on it so that you can see inside the hive. The bees are behind the glass, safely contained, but the children can see them working around inside the hive. So I can take that into schools and then talk to the children about, what bees look like. It's actually quite amazing how many people will only think of bumblebees when they're thinking about bees. They don't know that honeybees look different from bumblebees. Often when you open it up and let them see the bees, they think they're wasps because they've got that narrow body shape. They don't look like the fuzzy bumblebee that they associate with bees. So even talking about the different types of bees, understanding there are different types of bees, talking about their role in pollination and food security. We play a little game about how bees are required for making not just honey that we like to eat, but also the strawberries and the apples and the pears and the chocolate that we need pollinators to do all those jobs. So opening up that idea of food sustainability and plant and animal interactions, I talk about that. And just having fun with the children about bees and talking about why they're important. And it's really rewarding. The kids love it. I love it. And the teacher, it links into so many different parts of the curriculum that the teachers love it as well. It's a great way of picking up lots of different bits of the curriculum. We do always like talking about how most of the bees in the hive are female and that the boys really don't do anything. But that always goes down well with primary school children.
And has there been any kind of funny stories or interesting things that you found when you're keeping bees?
We do have. There are always interesting things about beekeeping. You never quite know what you're going to find when you open up the hive. Sometimes the queen's missing. Sometimes there's more than one queen in the hive, and they're having a queen battle, that also grabs the children's attention. Ewan opened up a beehive once, and Death's head hawk moth crawled out of the hive, which was quite exciting.
Yeah, I got an absolute shock because I didn't realise the size of them or the noise that they make. So I was literally just going through my process, opening up the hive, checking all the frames, and suddenly there's this screeching giant moth just coming over the edge of the frame. And I got a fright at first, and then I sort of thought, wow, and you recognise it instantly. There's a wee skull motif on its back.
Is that the one from the Silence of the Lambs poster?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So it came over, and then just my first thought, I've worked around insects and things all my life, so I was shocked at first, and then my first thought was, I've got to tell people and try and catch it. So it wasn't going anywhere, so I just sort of carefully put it in a wee glass jar, and I was able to show the kids, who were absolutely beside themselves.
Yeah.
And then the press got involved, and it's quite rare. I mean, they're a really large migratory moth, so they don't tend to breed in the UK. They come from Africa. So it was really unusual. And I've spoken to a few beekeepers, and some of the larger beekeepers who have got thousands of hives, they've maybe seen them once or twice. But they are associated with beehives, which is they mimic the smell of the queen, and they will drink the honey. So they can kind of sneak into the hive without being detected. It's really once in a lifetime thing. I don't think I'll see that again. Usually it's wasps and things that are hanging around the hives. So yeah.
But it is really interesting. It's another one of those, like you said, it mimics the smell of the queen. So it's another one of those stories that you can use to say these things have evolved together.
Yeah.
They've developed this technique of mimicking the queen, so they're not attacked by the worker bees, and then they've got a safe place to live where they've got a ready food source in the honey. And it's a lovely story about evolution and how different parts of the ecosystem and community live together and synergistically or
finding the right balance,
prioritize each other, but it's all, everything works together. Nothing stands on its own.
I think it's quite good that because we've both got a sciencey background, and we're both interested in public engagement. I've done a lot of that through my work, and Liz does it professionally. And it works quite well as a business in terms of when we do, public engagement events, where we do a Meet the Bees events with some of our friends that have run like pumpkin patches or local delis and things, and we bring the beehive in and show the public, and it really does work well in terms of what we want to do, and it's good. It's a good system we've got. Yeah. And
it sounds like you do a lot. So apart from the honey, you produce quite a few other products.
Yeah, so on the small holding, I grow quite a lot of soft fruit. So we've got a large patch of raspberries and strawberries and gooseberries, blackcurrants, rhubarb, and then we've got the trees around, elder trees and crabapple trees and things like that. So I use that fruit. I grew up on a farm, as I said, and my mum was your typical farmer's wife that had her garden, had her job, helped my dad out on the farm, and then spent all her time in the kitchen making chutneys and jams. And from a young age, I was told, you don't let something go to waste. If you can't eat it, you preserve it. And so, you make raspberry jam, you make courgette chutney, whatever. You don't let things go to waste. And so I have always done that throughout my life, and I use the fruits to make lots of things for us. I make jams and chutneys and things like that. But also when we first started thinking about selling the honey as a business, what else can I do with the fruit that we grow in our garden? And there's lots of people out there that are already selling jam and chutneys and things like that. So I found that there wasn't really anyone out there selling flavoured vinegars. So I used the fruit to make flavoured vinegars that you can use as salad dressings, or also into shrub cordials, which are fruit cordials made with vinegar. And I get a lot of raised eyebrows when I suggest that people should drink a cordial made of vinegar, but it gives a very refreshing soft drink that you can mix with water, or you can use it as a cocktail mixer. It's a very old-fashioned recipe. So we use the soft fruit to make these vinegars and shrubs, and they're very popular. We sell a lot of them, especially during the summer. We sell a lot of the vinegars for people to use as salad dressings. When it comes to Christmas, we sell a lot of the shrubs for people to use in cocktails.
Yeah. I've heard you make a good gin cocktail. Yeah, exactly. So your business, it sounds a fantastic kind of thriving business with the honeys and the shrubs and the vinegars. So has there been any challenges that you've had in running the business, or some things that you've learned along the way you find useful or wish you'd known at the start?
I think it's always challenging running your own business. I think there's the constant sort of pressure on your time. You don't really have time off, especially when you're doing it from home. That you don't have that separation of work and home, and there's always that nagging feeling of you should be doing something. You should be out picking raspberries. You should be answering emails. You should be doing something. There's not much switch off time, and the seasonality of it also adds to that. Especially during bee season, when the swarms might be happening, it's not a case of, I'll just leave it tomorrow. If you leave it until tomorrow, you might have lost all your bees because they've swarmed. So there's that constant pressure of having to do it all the time. I think if I'd known everything that I was happy to do at the beginning, I probably wouldn't have started. So in a way, it was nice to be a bit naive about it before you know sort of all the food hygiene things and things that you have to go through. And
that was one of the biggest things we found, was going from like a very small micro cottage industry where we'd literally sold 100 jars of honey and 100 jars of vinegars over a summer when we started, to now selling substantially more than that. And it was the change in the food processing, and how we could reduce the time we spend on actually having to process food or get it ready and bottle it. And so we built we're quite lucky, we had an old part of the house, part of the sort of an old garage that we didn't use, and we converted that into a commercial kitchen, which it helps with the work-life balance a small bit as well, because it separates. You have that area for doing the food processing, and then when you close the door and you come into the house, although your mind's maybe still on it, but it is physical separation, and you're not just constantly.
Whereas when we first started, it was in our own kitchen. So, I'd send the kids off to school, I'd sterilise the kitchen, I'd get started, and I'd have to clear it all away before the kids came home and I made dinner. Whereas now I can at least, have it in a separate part of the house, and I don't have the children's dinner crumbs on the table before I get started and things like that. They are separate parts of the house.
And with the honey side of it, it's amazing. So I guess I was quite naive as well, and thinking that, I could do this. And at some point I thought we could do it full time. And, it's not totally gone away. Still sometimes I get fanciful and think I might do it full time. But we used to have a couple of hives that would get some honey out. And then thinking, if we just increase this and go up to 50 hives or 60 hives, and then the costs on your time are so huge. And actually the costs to transport things, you suddenly need a lot more equipment, and you need
suddenly you need a trailer to move 20 hives instead of just putting them in the back of the van, and suddenly to extract the honey you need a bigger extractor, and you need
a room dedicated to it, unless you want honey all over Liz's lovely commercial kitchen.
One thing that we say every year is, why does honey have to be so sticky? It gets to the extracting period and your whole life is sticky. Everything is sticky.
Oh, that's awful. But we've got it down pretty well now. We're quite a slick operation. We get it extracted pretty quick, and we know a lot of the tricks of the trade, and a lot of it's just experience. I mean, someone can tell you how you manage hives and manage a business, and how you actually, until you do it yourself, you learn your own way to do these things, and it's
learn what works.
It's tough.
And I think with lots of things, it's really about how much are you prepared to do. Are you really prepared to work until 11 o'clock at night during the summer? And we're making it sound awful. During the winter, there really isn't all that much to do with the bees. It's very quiet. There's a very sort of intense period between April and August where you have to do a lot of work with the bees, but then over the winter they really look after themselves, and we really don't have to do very much to them at all. So it is very intense seasonally.
It's funny as well with the seasonality. my whole mindset around the seasonality has changed completely since we've been doing all the fruit and veg, also the honey bees, is that I now think of when I take my bees up to the heather in last week, and that's them there for sort of 6 weeks getting heather honey, and then I'll go and bring them down, and then that's the season kind of over. And I almost think that's winter, and it's only August.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's just done.
That's summer done.
That's summer over, and it's really not. So it kind of tricks you into thinking the year's over. So I find that quite difficult, actually. I find it, in a way, I find it quite nice that we are so linked to the seasons in what we do, you know, with the bees, getting them ready in the spring, with the fruit picking, and with the changing of the seasons. I do like that connection with the seasons, with the land that we have. I do think when you live in we've both done it, living in a city, doing a job in a building with maybe a window if you're lucky, you can be detached from the real world, from nature, from the natural world, and from the seasons. And I find it very therapeutic to be out in a thunderstorm, doing it outside and being connected to the weather, to the seasonality. Can I just say I don't like beekeeping in a thunderstorm? That would be horrendous.
Sounds quite dangerous. But yeah, no, that's been absolutely fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing your story and all your knowledge and experiences of beekeeping and of the small holding that you've got, and amazing products that go well on butt trays is my favourite way to have it, I would say. Some honey on a butt tray.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Have you got any top tips for recipes or ways to use your honey?
Ooh, so
I mean, my favourite is probably just the set honey on freshly made bread. Just, you can't really beat that. Just spread it nice and thickly on
nice
bread.
and simple.
I drink a lot of honey if I'm feeling unwell. Mix it with hot water. There's something very comforting and very soothing about drinking honey and lemon.
Yeah, it's funny because we have so much honey in the house, but I actually don't use it that much myself. I do love it. I tend to use it more, and if I'm doing barbecues or if I'm doing some cooking outdoors or cooking, I would use it in recipes as a marinade or part of a sauce and things. Yeah.
It also comes out at Christmas with the cheese and crackers.
Yeah, cheese. So
yeah.
Manchego cheese with honey is lovely. That's one of my favourites. It might just be the cheese, but it's a good excuse.
I'm getting hungry now. I'm going to search the cupboard for a jar of honey. Well, thank you so much for your time. That's been fantastic.
Well, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you very much.
We can talk about bees all day long.
As you can probably tell.
Thanks for listening to this Food Connections podcast. Do check out the show notes for more information related to this episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, please tell others about it, and do get in contact with me if you have any comments or suggestions for future guests. See you next time.